One. Okay, so Jonathan Spivey. It's Spivey, right? Not Spivey.
How did you know?
I thought Spider-Man.
Right? That's
Like,
right. I get that one a lot.
yeah. Are you in Chicago right now, right? You have your show, and when did you
Yep.
arrive?
We did our first one last night. We flew in on Monday. We were in Tulsa last week. And this is actually my last week and a half of the tour. My year is up. I
Okay.
am my last show is on Friday, February 28th. And then we've got a lot of turnover happening right now. We've hit that year mark, so a lot of folks are passing the torch.
So does the other person come in and learn from you, and then or
They, it depends. They rehearse. Yeah, they come in a couple weeks before they officially take over. Actually, interestingly, the guy that they had hired to replace me
uh-huh.
booked something else after he took over the job.
Hmm.
So we've got like a second replacement who just started his first rehearsal is today. The guy that was supposed to take over for me booked a Broadway show, so he is only going to be doing it for. We don't even know if he's coming back at this point. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they come in, they rehearse, they watch us do the show,
Mhm.
they watch the tape, they rehearse with stage managers during the day to get the blocking. Like our show is so um the movement on stage is so set
Mhm.
that they're kind of just taking the notes from the stage management team. And then you may already know this, but just like an understudy would go through, the replacement has their official put in, which is their final run through of the show with all of the regulars that they'll actually be doing it with, but not in front of an audience,
Oh.
but in costume on the set. So that's their final kind of like process for being ready to do it in front of an audience.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, I definitely want to talk about what you're working on next too, because what's going on. But let's just start from the beginning. So your pronouns are he, him,
Yes, that's right.
and how do you identify? Like, is gay,
Uh
queer, straight? What?
I'm gay as a gay man. I was like, those are my pronouns. How else am I going to identify?
It questions like it throws people, but this is how you identify. However, it could be bisexual, whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm gay.
Okay, and then you grew up. Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in a really tiny town called Windsor, Virginia, like 3,000 people, cotton fields, soybean fields. Um, all of my grandparents were farmers. Both of my parents were first generation college graduates. Both of them are gone now, but my sister and I have talked about that a lot. So not an environment where like a kid grows up thinking I can be a professional actor. That
Mm.
being said, I somehow won the lottery with my folks because they were both incredibly supportive of a kid, both of a gay son, but also a gay son who wanted to be in theater, and said, "Hey, we support whatever you want to do professionally." I never dealt with pressure of like, "Oh, you should think about XYZ." The only conversation I remember having with my dad, and I think he sort of knew this would never happen, was he mentioned, I think when I was a teenager, he was like, you're really smart. Like, you can make a lot of money in the military. And I
Mm.
remember looking at him like, Dad, what? But he knew. He was like, my son is never going to be in the military. He knew.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, now I'm from Virginia. I have played piano since I was a kid. I thought I was going to be a music major. And then, like a lot of folks in the arts, had done theater since I was in like high school and ended up falling into theater more than music, though I do still play piano and kind of call on that skill sometimes too.
Hmm. So Clue is not a musical, right? You're not
Club
singing.
is not a musical, though people ask that. I cannot tell you how many television interviews I've done where you're sitting there and you're doing the morning show and they're like, so tell us about the musical. And I'm like, it actually isn't.
Uh-huh.
But at times it does feel like one. There is a dance sequence halfway through. It's highly stylized. The whole show is highly choreographed. It's door slamming farce. So it does have the feel of an old fashioned kind of. It does feel like a golden age musical at some points.
Uh-huh.
But we're
Um,
not making out into song or anything like that.
right. Who's the queerest character in Clue, in your opinion?
I gotta say, Mrs. Peacock, and I was daydreaming about this earlier this week. I think we need an all drag production of Clue. It must have happened somewhere. Like it must have happened in somebody's living room, somebody getting all their drag friends to it's gotta have happened already, but we need like a high profile, and I mean the entire cast. We need a gender bent Clue, and that thing would sell like it would run forever. The,
Yeah.
sh- the show is so high style, the show is camp,
Uh-huh.
especially our stage version. The movie, obviously a cult classic, but the movie is very dry. Our stage version is much broader and much wackier. And
Mhm.
I have imagined this more than once. Like, folks ask me all the time, what character do you want to play? And I'm like, I don't do drag,
Mhm.
but like Mrs. Peacock, absolutely. To get to wear all of it, that hands down, that would be it.
Yeah, how fun. Is it kind of like Noises Off in some ways? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, it's not a backstage farce, but yes, there are five doors on stage, a lot of slamming, pratfalls. I would say it's a marriage of noises off and or the play that goes wrong
Mhm.
without the oh this is going poorly element, but that kind of heightened style meets there's a little Agatha Christie homage. I mean, the murder mystery element is there.
Mhm.
We lean so heavily into farce and camp that, like, yes, the audience is trying to figure out who the killer is, but I think most mysteries, that's really an active part of the show. Our show is really, I've described it as like a or I've described it as it's a farce disguised as a murder mystery. Because, like, yes, you're trying to figure out the killer, but like, the experience is really more the humor. It's like it's a slapstick experience. That's what the show is.
Love that. Okay. And the ending has changed every time, or how does that work?
The
Or is it
ending is the same every night.
okay?
Um, it always ends the same way, but I know so many folks who love the movie know that there were multiple endings when it came out. And
Yeah.
like when the VHS was released, they strung all three endings together. So I don't want to give away too many secrets, but I will say if you like that the movie had multiple endings,
Uh-huh.
you will like the way our play ends, even though it does end the same way every night. You will we definitely tip the cap to that experience.
Uh-huh. I'm that generation that went to the theater and it was so gimmicky with the four different endings, but it definitely made you want to go more than once, which is what the whole idea was and all that.
Well, and tell me, like, as I understand it, like, folks didn't really know when you were seeing it in the theater until you started talking to each other that, like, wait, you saw it ended differently when you saw it, right? Like, they didn't publicize that, right?
Oh, no, so on the marquee it would say Clue A, B, C, and D. So that's how you would go to each one. Yeah.
So you knew, so you could go four times to see all four.
Yeah, that's what they wanted, and people did.
Oh my God, that's kind of genius. And now you're making me wonder why we don't, well, because they want people to come see the play. Nobody's going to come to the theater four times, but that would be a really cool way to do it on stage.
Yeah, yeah. So what are you doing after the tour? What's your plans?
This fell into my lap. A couple weeks ago, I'm going back to where I went to undergrad. So I got my master's degree at the Globe in San Diego, but I got my undergrad degree at the University of Richmond in Virginia. And a former professor there asked me to come play Officer Lockstock in Urinetown as a guest artist at my undergrad,
Mhm.
along with a couple of folks that were guest artists when I was a student there. So it's going to be this full circle, educational environment, which I don't do a lot, but can be incredibly rewarding. And also to be back in the theater where I did some of my first performances is going to be, I'm sure, going to make me feel really old, but it's going to be really fun.
And what an honor. I mean, how great to be, asked to do that and how cool that's happening.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, so Richmond is where I did a lot of my first professional theater, and I was just down there. I had a vacation week. I was doing a table read of a play that I wrote. I'm a writer too. One of the actors that was in that table read a couple weeks ago was one of the guest artists when I was a student. Her name's Kathy Shafter, incredibly funny actor,
Mhm.
and she's going to be in this Urinetown with me. So it's yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and yeah, I mean, getting to kind of pass the torch to students now. I know how formative of an experience that was for me too. You're to be able to get to perform with people who are like actively professionally doing it
Mhm.
can teach you so much in addition to what you're learning in the classroom. So that was a big part of my professional development. So um, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity now to sort of, like I said, pass the torch now that I'm got some credits under my belt.
Yeah, we I went to Western Kentucky and studied theater there, and we did the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and Becky Ann Baker came back and did it in front of us. So then we learned from
Yeah,
her, and Dylan was there, and
she wouldn't remember me. We met a handful of times, but Dylan and I did the front page together, and I'm such an admirer of both of them. And I will watch her do anything. She's one of my favorites.
yes, so great. You were in a complete unknown. Did you have a little?
I had a blink and you'll miss me role in a complete unknown. It was a big group scene. It was a party scene where Timothy Chalamet and Ed Norton, who was playing Pete Seeger, sang a song together at a party. And the Clue let me leave for a couple days to shoot that scene.
Oh.
Um, I think it was 2 days of 12 hours. My biggest memories of that were I had never been I've done plenty of TV at this point, but I had never been in a scene where people are singing. So I didn't really, this was my first time being a part of that. And they're playing the track over and over and they're kind of, singing along with it and playing the instruments while it's happening. But my two biggest memories are it was a party scene in the 60s, right? So people are smoking, it's the 60s, but I was so sick for like a week after that because it was 12 hours, 2 days in a row of just standing in a room with like 50 background actors just chain smoking right next to you. And you kind of couldn't leave. And I don't know why. I'm an ex smoker. Maybe that's why it really hit me like a ton of bricks, but like I was ill. I don't know how I did the show, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Um, yeah, but it was such a small part. It was a great experience, but like friends of mine have seen it and are like, "You were in it," and I'm like, "I know." It was a bit part.
Yeah, I get it. I was in Chicago Med recently. I was just in the background, but it is a long day and it's a lot of uh, good food sometimes. And things.
Yeah, yeah, we ate well. There were 5 or 6 of us that were like one-liner actors for that scene,
Uh-huh.
and it was kind of fascinating. I remember one was a Tony nominee. We were folks. It was like, whoa, we're here, but you get there and you're still the scene is changing. Your lines are kind of like not always what you thought they would be. The whole concept of how they're going to shoot it can sometimes change what you've already learned. And
Mhm.
it's a big lesson in being fluid and adaptable.
Yeah, take away something from it and get to be in
Yeah.
it. Okay, well, cool. I look forward to seeing Clue tonight. I believe this is the big opening night for the press, and I can meet you at the stage door after and say hello. I always like to, and I look forward to seeing what you do, Mr. Plum, Professor Plum. I said Mr. Plum.
Yeah. Plum is kind of a creeper. That's the only other thing I'll say is like when we're in more progressive cities like Chicago, I
Mhm.
can usually tell in the first 30 seconds the audiences are like, "Oh my god, this guy."
Uh,
Whereas we're in some more conservative cities, they think I'm a laugh riot. Like they don't care. They're like, "This guy's hilarious." So it feels a little like when we were in Seattle and Los Angeles. They're like, "Okay, this guy is maybe making some not great choices," but that's been a big lesson too in doing the show. Is like that's the role. not every character we play has to be likable, and that's okay.
Yeah, go see Betrayal at Goodman. They're not likable. It's,
Oh, wait, is that who's in that right
it's
now?
a Helen Hunt one. Helen Hunt is in it. It's the Pinter's Betrayal. So yeah.
I haven't seen a Pinter. They don't do Pinter in New York a lot, but like I'm trying to. I think the last one I saw was Homecoming, and the pauses. Obviously, that's what everyone thinks of. But like, I think of his plays as like you always think somebody is about to murder someone, but
Yeah.
not in the first way. You just think, oh my gosh, is this person going to eat the other person alive? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely felt that. I felt a lot of things watching that.
I think the last couple shows, I've got a couple friends who live here. The last Chicago shows I've seen, I think, was Christmas Carol there. Henry Wishcamper's Christmas Carol. That's probably been pre-COVID. And then a buddy of mine was in. Do you remember Doppelganger? Do you remember that play?
I didn't see it. Mm-mm.
It was Rainn Wilson.
Oh,
This was I don't know what year, but I've thought about it a lot lately because it was a meeting of diplomats from all over the world. But the concept was think it was the president was mistaken for his doppelganger was like an elementary school teacher from Wisconsin who had no idea what he was doing but had to pretend like, oh, I know what the job is. So
oh, that's brilliant.
yeah, and I don't know why. I
Yeah.
don't know. Seems like a really prime time for that to come back.
Oh yeah. Like update it and oh my goodness, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a wild ride. Well, thank you for your time today. I will see you later on in the evening and break a leg tonight. And
All right. Thank you so much.
okay, thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
bye.